Hey! Hey! Drop the gun! Sir, drop the gun!
Welcome to First Person Defender, where regular people come face to face with unknown attackers.
Drop the gun! Whoa! Stop! Don't make fire! Get out, dude! Get on the ground! Get on the ground!
And fight their way out.
Drop the gun!
This is First Person Defender.
Sometimes the threat is not like in the movies. They're not angry, they're not yelling. So how do you tell if they're a threat, and when do you react? All that right now on First Person Defender.
These force-on-force scenarios use training guns that fire non-lethal projectiles.
My name is Gilbert, and I am from Pennsylvania. I had my little bit of training while I was in the military, and when I started with the firearms back in 2017, I did take a couple of courses, like an active shooter course, AR-15 carbine introduction, and I mostly shot ARs for my first 2 or 3 years. I think my competitive background definitely plays a role in defense, because we do practice speed shooting and obviously taking the gun out of the holster, and you want to do that in a practical time. You're shooting steel, but I believe in a self-defense scenario, it will definitely be of use. I am not sure what's going to happen today, but I am sure I'm going to be put into a difficult position, and I'm going to have to defend myself.
Gilbert's a good guy. He obviously lives the gun lifestyle. He's actually got competitive experience and training. So those are good things to combine. So he has good gun handling skills, he's got great training. So I think he's going to do a good job today. I know he's concerned about his performance, but he doesn't concern me. We've got a really neat scenario for Gilbert. It comes straight out of the news. It is more bizarre than actual life, however, it is actual life. And to talk about that scenario, I've got Philip Toppino from HK. Philip, we've got a great scenario for Gilbert. You got a chance to listen to what he had to say, a little bit about his background. How do you think he's going to do today?
Great family man. He's got some military background. It's going to be really interesting. This is going to be a dynamic. Truth is stranger than fiction. A lot of things happen dynamically, and what we can learn from real life experience, and everyone's going to learn from that in this scenario.
Pulled straight from the headlines, Gilberto finds himself with a difficult decision. Does he choose to engage when it's not his fight, or does he prevent a catastrophic event from taking place?
Hey! 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 Drop the gun! Sir, drop the gun! Sir, drop the gun! Sir! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! I'll shoot you! What are you doing? Oh! Oh, shit. That's not my fight.
Index. So what just happened?
Well, I came out of the place that I was visiting, waiting for a friend to pick me up, and basically a gentleman executed a guy that was just sitting in the stool there.
Are you aware that this is a real scenario? This is a real story straight out of the news?
No, I'm not. I am not aware of that.
So what did you do?
When I saw him that he shot the guy, obviously I pulled my firearm. I don't know if I'm next, but at no point did I see him being a threat to me. He just looked at me. He never made an effort to bring his gun up to shoot me, so I didn't feel that he was a threat to me, but I was ready just in case.
So he wasn't a threat to you, but he obviously went inside and shot somebody else, huh?
Apparently, yes.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've got a lot of thoughts on this. I'm not saying you did anything wrong, because this is something that everybody watching this needs to think about. How do you feel right now?
I feel very awkward in the fact that I don't know if I should have shot the guy.
That's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. I'm so glad that we're presenting this. Let's bring in Philip from HK and see what his thoughts are on this. Tell me what you're thinking.
I think you did nothing wrong. You didn't engage him because it was an immediate, imminent threat to you. The firearm was out. A couple things I want you to think about is get away. Get away, run. You tried to open the door, it was locked. What other options do you have? There's another door next to you.
You observed a guy execute somebody, but what did you see before that? Tell me about pre-threat indicators.
The pre-threat indicators were that he took out his gun and I saw him loading it. I had no clue what his intentions were because he was really cool, calm, and collected. So I kind of got ready. But when I saw him load it and basically just pointed in the back of the head of the gentleman and just shoot him, I obviously, at that time, I already had my gun out.
You said he went inside and shot somebody else. That's something you got to live with. You don't have to go to court because you didn't do anything. But 2 people died because you didn't do anything. I think there's some training points in here. I think there's things we can work on. I'm going to let Philip work with you, and then we're going to run the scenario again.
The HK MP5 is probably one of the most copied carbines in the world. But if you want an HK, you gotta get an HK. Now they have the SP5, the sporting version of the MP5. Short, fun, cool, historic, 9mm, fun to shoot. What's not to like? Check out the HK SP5.
Walk me through what you were thinking when you walked out and then you saw him loading the mag.
When I saw him loading the bag, I actually got a little confused because you just don't see people just, on a sidewalk preparing nonchalantly to shoot somebody.
That's unusual, right? When we see
Very
something
unusual.
unusual, we give it more attention.
Yes.
And when it started to become really weird is, I don't think you noticed the firearm right away. It took you a while to notice it.
That is correct. I did not see the firearm at the beginning, and I didn't see him load the mags, which I was told he was loading the mags right there.
And then when you didn't really see it until you heard him.
That is correct.
And all of a sudden when he cycled it, that's when you turned over and you went, whoa. And you took a little bit longer than you should have to try to leave, but when you did try to leave, you found out the door was locked.
The door was locked.
So this comes back to, in a situation like this, what other options do you have? If you can't get away that way, there happened to be another option to get away this way. And then at the same time, really just creating distance. You could have also started to walk. So I think you did a good job by pre-positioning. And that is the other thing I would just add, the A+ answer would be to get distance. Okay, so that's
Yes.
number one, getting distance and trying to get away. You had one area that was locked, you had another area available to you. So let's take the gun out now and you bring it down to your side and you kind of hide it. So this is like pre-positioning. Now he can't see it, right? Keeping your hand straight. So now you would try to leave without drawing any attention to him. And if something happens that you're already really behind the curve because his handgun is already out. So now we would start to walk, keeping your eye on him, and you're walking. So if something were to happen here and he were to point the gun towards you, you could move and you have more options because you're moving farther away and your gun is already out. In force science, you have 0.6 to 0.8 milliseconds that you cannot react faster than someone can act. So when that gun is out and if he were to look over at you and decide to bring the gun up and shoot, even if you're pointed in and indexed and you have the trigger pulled in, if he were to come up quick and shoot, you cannot react faster than he can act. We're gonna do a action versus reaction, okay? Role player, come over a little bit closer. I'm going to have you draw your firearm and you're gonna be standing here pointing in this direction, okay? And now take the slack out and you're pointed in. Role player, okay, your hand is down, right? Now, your slack is on the trigger. Take the slack out of the trigger, and you're gonna fire in that direction. It's a safe and it's downrange. They have gear on, everything's been checked. Role player, on the go command, you're gonna bring the gun up rather fast, and I want you to put a round into this wall. On the go command, line is set, ready, go. Okay, finger straight, come down to the ready. So what did that feel like? You see, even though you're pointed in, your finger's on the trigger, when you went to press, there was action versus reaction. This is why it's good to avoid this if at all possible. Thinking about it again, now knowing what you know, having other options and other ways to avoid, let's run this back again and see how we do.
If you want to survive a real-world experience like you see on First Person Defender, you need training. And we provide classes and training at Range Ready Studios. We have pistol classes, rifle classes, advanced concealed carry, and even First Person Defender experiences where you get to run through many scenarios like you see on this show. Go to rangereadystudios.com to sign up now.
One-handed shooting is not my favorite, but there's a time and a place for it. Let me give you a little scenario right here on the range when I might need to have a one-handed draw and shoot one-handed. Say I'm standing out here and I observe something going on that's very dangerous or deadly threat. Somebody has a gun perhaps. I don't want to just draw a gun, maybe not draw a bunch of attention to myself. So I get my phone out and I start making a phone call. I'm dialing 911. I'm looking at this piece of cover back here. I start moving back this way. As I assume a position of cover, I try to keep my eyes on the bad guy. I get my gun out with a nice stealthy draw. I can take a position of cover while I'm aimed in. And I'm telling law enforcement, yep, he's got a gun. Shoot him. And I had to take that shot and make that shot one-handed. Sometimes your other hand is occupied. The next time you're out on the range, practice your one-handed shooting. But think about the scenario that one-handed shooting could encompass. Certainly, having a cell phone in one of your hands is not out of the question.
The HK VP9 is a full-size, modern, polymer, striker-fired gun. Holds 17 rounds of 9mm, it's optics ready, and of course, HK quality. One of the things that you get with a VP9 HK is a polygonal barrel. What does that matter to you? Well, polygonal, different way of doing the grooves inside, the lands and grooves, it's different. Well, it's gonna actually seal behind the bullet better, sealing the gases in, giving you a little bit more velocity. It's also very durable. So lots of time on the range. This baby's gonna last a lifetime of shooting, the HK VP9.
First Person Defender brought to you by HK and T4E. Gilberto finds himself waiting on his son to give him a ride. Does he use wise decisions to prevent his demise, or does he put his son in danger instead?
Hello, 911? Yeah, there's a shooting here in just come on the head. Are you okay?
Index, index, index. I have the first question I want to ask you is, how do you feel right now?
I feel a little nervous.
Why?
I don't know, the situation just gets your adrenaline going, and you know, it's a situation and a scenario that you don't ever think that you're gonna find yourself in. I was coming out of the door, and my son was supposed to come pick me up.
Okay.
When I came out the door, my son was not here yet, and I observed my surrounding, and I saw a guy with a pistol in his back pocket. At that time, I immediately didn't like what I saw, so I looked for cover. I opened the door and I went in and I called 911. While I was doing that, my son showed up, and I saw him basically attacking my son, and that's when I came back and I shot him.
How far did you go into the building? I didn't even see how far. How far did you disappear? Did you lose sight of the bad guy?
I actually was hiding behind a wall in there.
So how do you feel about the way it went down?
I feel that if that was my course of action, my son would have been dead.
That was a really tough situation, and you did the right thing, which was to get out, but then you couldn't leave because you had a family member coming. Did you see the family member drive up when you left?
I did not see my family member drive up.
Okay.
I was just trying to get away at that time, and my concentration was on the bad guy.
When you left, a really important thing is you took your eyes, you lost track of where the potential threat was. When your son came in, when your son drove up, when you lost sight of him, that puts you at a tremendous disadvantage. So while getting away is number one, the fact that you had your family member there made it really difficult. What went great is that you came out, you saw there was a threat, and you got out of there. What didn't go so well is that when you did leave, you left too far because you knew you had a loved one that showed up. And you left so far that you couldn't tell that your loved one showed up, and you lost track of the bad guy. So that's one of those things where it's an ink blot. There's a lot of things that you did well, a lot of learning points here. And I think this is where we play pretend as real as possible, that learning moments. You can never have enough training.
To see all of Gun Talk's content, go to guntalk.com, guntalktv.com, or sign up for the Gun Talk newsletter.